The arena smelled of iron and alien rain. It was a wide, open bowl carved from the red stone of Vorath Prime, a planet that had never once, in its 4,000-year recorded history, seen a species walk into its grand trial and walk back out with its dignity intact. The grand trial was not a fight. It was not a war. It was something older, more primal than either, a demonstration of mastery. You brought your greatest beast. Your enemy brought theirs. The one whose creature faltered first lost everything. Trade routes. Territory. The right to speak at the Galactic Conclave. Commander Kale Vera stood at the far end of the arena, arms folded behind his back, the silver threading of his ceremonial coat catching the twin sons of Vorath. He was Drevathi, tall, silver-skinned, with 4 eyes that caught light like polished obsidian. His people had won the grand trial 19 consecutive times. They were not, by any reasonable estimation, worried. At the other end of the arena stood Mara Ellison. She was, by Drevathi standards, laughably small. 1.7 meters. Soft skin the color of warm sand. 2 eyes, too, the Drevathi observers whispered to one another, and hair pulled back into a single practical braid. She wore no ceremonial coat. She wore field gear, worn brown canvas jacket, reinforced boots, a earpiece communicator. She had a datapad tucked under her left arm, and in her right hand she held what looked, to the assembled alien dignitaries, like an ordinary metal canister. Commander Vera studied her through the ambient hum of the crowd. He had been briefed on her. Mara Ellison. Chief Xenobiology Liaison, Human Terran Authority. Decorated Field Handler. Specialty, large-scale fauna management. He had expected someone more imposing. Humans, murmured his aide, Sev, who stood 2 steps behind him. They always look so fragile. They do, Kale agreed. He raised his right hand. 3 fingers extended, the Drevathi signal to the handlers at the far gate. The gate opened. What came through it had no proper name in any human language yet catalogued. The Drevathi called it Velkarith, Worldbreaker, and the name was not metaphor. It was 12 meters of armored muscle, hexapodal, with a hide that could turn a plasma round at close range. Its skull was a solid slab of biomineralized bone. Its 6 eyes burned amber. When it entered the arena, the stone floor cracked under its weight. The crowd fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold still. The Velkarith opened its mouth and made a sound that was not quite a roar. It was lower than that, older than that, the kind of sound that lived in the oldest parts of a nervous system and simply said, "You are prey." 3 rose up in the observer gallery. A junior diplomat from the Hesari collective quietly fainted. Commander Kale Vera allowed himself one small, satisfied smile. He looked across the arena at Mara Ellison. She was looking at the Velkarith with the kind of expression a mechanic gives a moderately interesting engine problem. She tilted her head. Made a small note on her datapad. Then she looked up, directly at Kale, and smiled. It was not a nervous smile. It was not a smile of bravado, trying to pretend fear away. It was the smile of someone who had just been waiting for this exact moment, and was genuinely pleased it had arrived. She clicked the communicator at her ear. "Bring her up," Mara said. Nothing happened for 3 seconds. Then the ground began to shake. It was subtle at first, a tremor that most of the gallery assumed was the Velkarith shifting its weight. But the Worldbreaker had gone very still. Its amber eyes had moved, all 6 of them, to face the south gate. The massive creature took 1 step backward. The south gate didn't open. It came apart. Not violently, not in an explosion. The reinforced durasteel simply bowed outward, then peeled back like foil, the bolts shearing cleanly, as something on the other side pressed through with patient, inevitable force. The gates remains folded flat against the arena wall. What came through the gap moved slowly, not because it was cautious, but because slow was simply how it chose to move. It had no reason to hurry. It was called Grendel. She was 17 meters long from snout to tail tip, and she walked on 6 limbs that were built like suspension bridges, cables of muscle over structural bone. Her hide was layered, outer dermal plates of calcified chitin over a sublayer of dense cartilage over muscle that moved like hydraulics. She was dark black-green, the color of deep ocean, with faint bioluminescent striping along her flanks that pulsed slow and blue in the Vorath sunlight. Her head was broad and flat, with forward-facing eyes the color of pale gold. She had been gene-catalogued as a descendant of the mosasaur lineage, but that was like calling a nuclear reactor a descendant of a campfire. Grendel had been found in the Marianas Basin at age 3. She had been raised by Mara Ellison since she was small enough to hold. She was now 11 years old and had once, during a containment breach on the research station Europa 7, destroyed an automated defense turret by sitting on it. She entered the arena and looked around with the calm, focused attention of an apex predator doing what apex predators do, assessing everything, committing to nothing yet. Then she found Mara. The change was immediate and complete. The massive head swung toward the small human woman. The tail stopped moving. The bioluminescent stripes shifted from blue to something warmer, amber, slow pulsing. Grendel crossed half the arena in a movement that shook the stone and lowered her head to approximately 1 meter from Mara's face. Mara reached up and pressed her palm flat against the side of Grendel's jaw. "Good girl," she said. "You ready?" Grendel made a sound. It was low, resonant, felt more in the chest than heard with the ears. The Velcarith, 12 meters away, took another step backward. Its 6 eyes were wide. Commander Kale Vera had not moved. He was standing very still, for eyes fixed on what was happening across the arena. His aide Sev had stopped breathing, which was biologically inadvisable. "Commander," Sev said carefully. "Their animal is larger. I can see that. And the Velcarith appears to be retreating. I can see that as well." The Velcarith had, in fact, retreated to the corner of the arena closest to its entry gate. It had pressed its armored bulk against the wall and was making a sound that the Drevathi beast trainers would later, in their official report, describe as vocalizations consistent with an animal that has encountered a stimulus outside its threat response parameters. In plainer language, the Worldbreaker was whimpering. Mara scratched Grendel behind the left lateral plate, the spot that made her close her golden eyes for half a second in satisfaction, and then turned to face the Drevathi end of the arena. She raised her voice to Carrie. "Commander Vera. I don't want Grendel to hurt your animal. She won't if yours stands down. But I need you to call your handlers, right now, and get the Velcarith back through its gate." She paused. "Please." The please was not weakness. The please was the most human thing in the arena, the product of a species that had, over millennia, learned that you could be terrifying and still choose courtesy. That you could hold the winning hand and still offer the other player a graceful exit. Kale Vera looked at his aide. He looked at the Velcarith, still pressed into its corner. He looked at the human woman with her hand resting casually on a creature that made his Worldbreaker look like something you'd keep as a pet. He raised 2 fingers. The handlers moved. The Velcarith was guided back through its gate, making no protest. The arena was quiet. Kale walked, slowly, deliberately, toward the center of the arena floor. Mara walked to meet him, Grendel padding behind her at a distance of 3 meters, tail swaying with the easy rhythm of something that knows it won and doesn't need to perform about it. The two of them stood facing each other in the red stone bowl of Vorath Prime. Kale Vera was, by his species standards, a proud being. He had 4 eyes, 19 victories, and a ceremonial coat with silver threading. He looked at the human woman in the canvas jacket and the worn boots, with her hand resting against the jaw of the impossible creature behind her, and he did what any truly intelligent commander eventually learns to do. He bowed. "Handler Ellison," he said. "I believe we have trade negotiations to discuss." Mara smiled, the same smile she'd given him before. Unhurried. Warm. We do, she agreed. Grendel, sit. Behind her, 17 meters of ancient, armored apex predator sat. The galaxy, watching through 100 live broadcast feeds, updated its collective understanding of humanity's rank on the Threat Assessment Index. Quietly. Significantly. Upward.